Welcome again to Joe Stunner Boxing. Since Chantelle Cameron beat Katie Taylor at the weekend, a deserved victory, a very, very good performance by Chantelle. But since then, people have been saying, or asking the question anyway, is she now the premier fighter in women's boxing? And I would say, with great respect to Chantelle, no. And I'm going to explain to you why. Now, this is not a video that in any way casts any aspersions on Chantelle Cameron. She was a brilliant victory. I thought her tactics were excellent, all the tactics that were compiled, I guess, by Jamie Moore, who's the head trainer. Really, really impressive. I thought she went into the lion's den, the backyard. It was Katie's homecoming, and Chantelle ripped up the script and spoilt the party. And great respect for both these women, because Katie's done so much for female boxing. It must be tough to take a loss, especially at the age she is. I think she's 36 now. Chantelle's 4 years younger, but, both these women are a credit to the sport. But I don't agree that Chantelle can now walk around saying, I am the best female fighter pound for pound in the world. Now, the reason I don't think this is because, first of all, I never presumed that Katie was the best. As great as she is, and as much as she's achieved, I always thought that Claressa Shields, ever since she beat Savannah Marshall, to me personally, she proved her worth in that fight. She did what Chantelle did, was she came over to Britain and she fought in Savannah's backyard virtually and beat her. And she actually did it on the back of the death of Queen Elizabeth, the cancellation at the 11th hour of the fight. She had to go back to America, come back to Britain, and put on a tremendous performance to beat Savannah Marshall. I was convinced Savannah was going to win. I was wrong. Hold my hands up to that one. No problem with admitting it when I'm wrong. But when you consider the amount of titles that Claressa has won, and she herself has been an undisputed champion, I mean, she's clearly a great female fighter. And I would have given her, prior to the Cameron to Katie Taylor fight, I would have said the premier woman in boxing is Claressa Shields. That would be my opinion, with Katie second. Not by much, because Katie herself has achieved great things and beaten a lot of very, very good women, but I would have put Claressa at the top. So for that reason, to beat Katie, it doesn't necessarily mean that you can walk around saying you're the best, for me personally. Now, let's say that I had put Katie above Claressa, because some people did. I don't agree with it, but they did. Does that therefore mean that when Chantelle comes along and beats Katie, she can now walk around saying, I'm the best? For me, no. I mean, if you beat a great fighter, that's a massive achievement. But you don't then take on the mantle of being the greatest fighter in the world. Like, for example, when Roy Jones came back down to light heavyweight, won a supposedly controversial decision against Antonio Tarver, although I thought he did beat Tarver in that first fight. Jones was considered the best fighter in the world, and then he got knocked flat in the rematch by Tarver. Does that mean, therefore, that Tarver became the best fighter in the world? Not for me. I mean, it's a great achievement, and I'm nothing against Antonio Tarver. He's a good light heavyweight champ. But for me personally, no, it doesn't necessarily mean that just because you beat the best, you immediately must be considered the best. There are other examples. I'm struggling to think of, a particularly good modern day example. I suppose, let's say you had Anthony Joshua as the leading heavyweight in the world. Andy Ruiz comes along, bounces him off the canvas like a basketball. Does that mean Ruiz is suddenly the best heavyweight in the world? No. And all this is subjective, because a lot of people at the time when AJ was undefeated, myself included, would have said, no, Tyson Fury's a better heavyweight. Even though he was, inactive and there were all sorts of things going on. I would have said, and I did say back then, a fit, mentally prepared and physically fit Tyson Fury can beat AJ. To me, those two had to meet to discover who was the absolute best. And even then, I mean, now we have a situation with Usyk and with Fury. Those are the two champions. I don't think it's beyond the realms of possibility that, another heavyweight, whether it might be a Jared Anderson, it could be a... Let me think. I mean, it could be someone out, really out of left field who comes along, like say a Michael Hunter, for example, who's really out in the cold now. Perhaps if he's strung a couple of wins together and got a surprise voluntary, like a defence as a voluntary challenger by one of the champs, you just never know Who would have picked Teofimo Lopez to lose to George Kambosos? Does that victory over the guy who beat Loma means that? Did that mean that Kambosos was suddenly the best lightweight in the world? Well, you could make an argument for it at the time, but I think Devin Haney coming along and beating him twice again in Australia in his own backyard. I think you've got to, all of this is subjective. And again, I repeat, I have the greatest respect for Chantelle Cameron and what she achieved on Saturday. I thought it was tremendous. And she's clearly one of the best female fighters in the world. One of them. But to walk around saying you're pound for pound the best just because, you went and beat a champion who, by the way, again, no disrespect intended, but Katie was smaller and she's older and she could have been there for the taking against a bigger, stronger, younger girl. And apparently that was the case. And there's going to be a rematch, so Chantelle can rubber stamp her victory. But to me, you can't just, just because you beat someone, it doesn't necessarily mean that you immediately take on all of their achievements onto your shoulders. No, that's not how it works. What I like to see in boxing, and the way that I personally judge the state of boxing, is if you take any of the ruling body's top 10 contenders and count how many have faced each other. So you've got that sort of cross-pollination thing going on. That, to me, reflects the state of boxing. And it is not about, I beat him, therefore he beat him, and therefore I could beat... Fighter A beats Fighter B, who's beaten Fighter C, and therefore Fighter A can beat Fighter C. It doesn't necessarily follow that. You've got to have, like you did in the 70s, an obvious example. Muhammad Ali dominating an entire generation. Couple of close decisions. I don't think he beat Ken Norton in that third fight, but he also, he ruled in the 60s. They all fought each other, nearly all. I mean, I know that Foreman didn't fight actually, Ernie Shavers, for example. But Shavers gave Ali a tough time. He gave Holmes a tough time. And, you've got to weigh this up. This is purely subjective and it's fun to talk about. But no, to get back to the original reason for this video, I do not think you can call Chantelle Cameron the best female fighter in the world. Not yet. I think if she was to, let's say, for example, she went to 135, I don't know if she can make 135, probably not, and beat Katie again for all her belts, or maybe jumped up to super welterweight and become undisputed, then yeah, you can make an argument for that. But no, I think Claressa Shields remains the queen of women's boxing. Whether you like her manner or not, her demeanour or not, doesn't matter. I think she is the female governor for me personally. Anyway, leave your comments below. Tell me what you think. How do you define who is the best of an era in any particular weight category? Or pound for pound the best? Who do you think is, who do you disagree that Claressa is the best? Maybe you think Chantelle has taken over the mantle of the best female fighter in the world. You tell me. What's next for Chantelle? Well, obviously it's the rematch, but if she beats Katie, where's she going from there? If Katie loses to Chantelle again, does she go back down to lightweight and, carry on with her undisputed lightweight reign? What's happening? I mean, she's getting older. So leave all your comments below. I'm always interested to hear this stuff. Like the video if you could. Spread the word about Joe Stunner Boxing. And, subscribe if you're new. What can I tell you? We want to build the channel up. Appreciate your support anyway. Looking forward to reading your comments, and bye for now.